Strange man gives doll to little boy. When parents realize what it really is, they call 911. When Nico received the strange doll from an unknown individual at the park, he was clearly as happy as could be. But his parents had very different ideas about this. Nobody likes their child getting presents from a stranger. But Nico was so attached to the seemingly harmless toy that they could not take it away. But when they found out what this doll really was, they had no other choice but to call the police. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories. Steven and Ellie had been a bit worried about their son Nico's new doll. At first glance, it seemed harmless enough, and Nico absolutely loved the new toy. He took it everywhere with him and had gotten attached to it so quickly. Something that pleased his parents very much, as this was rare for their beloved son, who normally seemed to have a lot of trouble making these kinds of attachments to anything. From the moment that Nico got handed this doll, they had wanted to take it away from him. It had come into his possession when they were out in the park. Nico had run off for a short little while, and when Steven called to him, he came back clutching the doll. His parents asked him where he had gotten it from, and he told him that a man had given it to him. This of course immediately set off some alarm bells in Ellie, and she wanted to grab the doll from Nico. Steven meanwhile asked what the man looked like, and when Nico gave a simple but clear description, Steven went to look for the person immediately. But after about half an hour of running crisscross through the park and outside of it, he found nobody even close to matching that description. Back at his wife and son, Steven found that Ellie had still not been able to take the doll away from Nico. He already seemed to be oddly attached to it, and feeling like they had no other option, they allowed Nico to take the doll home with the condition that they could inspect and wash it before he would continue to play with it. In the safety of their home, they carefully washed the doll, scrutinizing every inch for any signs of tampering or hidden compartments. The water turned the doll's fabric a darker shade, but as it rinsed clear, so did their initial worry. Finding nothing out of the ordinary gave them a momentary relief. After the doll dried, they inspected it again, this time even more closely, looking for anything that might justify their unease. The doll, with its stitched smile and button eyes, held no secrets, or so it appeared. Seeing nothing wrong, they finally handed the doll back to Nico, who was waiting with barely contained excitement. "Thank you, Mommy, thank you, Daddy," he exclaimed, hugging the doll even tighter than before. His joy was infectious, and for a moment they forgot their worries, relieved to see their son so happy. Nico's happiness with the doll only grew in the days that followed. He wouldn't let it go, not for meals, not for baths, and especially not for bed. The doll had become his constant companion, a silent friend in all of Nico's adventures around the house and in the backyard. It was heartwarming and yet a bit worrying how attached he had become. The doll accompanied Nico everywhere, becoming a fixture in their daily life. It sat with them at the dinner table, went on trips to the grocery store, and even had its own spot on the couch during movie nights. Nico's attachment to the doll was clear, and while it brought him undeniable joy, it also raised silent questions in Steven and Ellie's minds about such an intense attachment to an inanimate object. Night after night, the doll became Nico's chosen bedtime companion. It was the last thing he talked to before sleep and the first he greeted each morning. Steven and Ellie noticed the comfort Nico drew from the doll's presence, a silent guardian through the night. Yet, the depth of Nico's attachment to the doll, always by his side, even in sleep, began to unsettle them. They watched their son, day after day, turning increasingly inward, his world seemingly revolving around the doll. Conversations at dinner revolved around the adventures Nico and the doll had that day, and it was becoming harder to engage him in other activities or interests. Over time, Steven and Ellie noticed the doll's smile starting to fade, its once bright expression dimming. This change was subtle at first, but became more noticeable as days passed. The alteration in the doll's cheerful demeanor began to unsettle them, casting a shadow of worry. How could a simple fabric doll's expression seem to change? It was a question neither wanted to voice, yet both thought. Adding to their unease, the doll's eyes seemed to follow their movements around the room. This eerie sensation couldn't be shaken off, especially by Ellie, who first noticed it late one evening. Whenever they moved, the doll's gaze appeared to track them, an impossibility they knew but felt nonetheless. This unnerving detail made the atmosphere in Nico's room, once warm and inviting, feel strangely cold. The signs of wear on the doll didn't resemble the usual patterns of a well-loved toy, as if the fabric and stitching were degrading in ways that didn't align with Nico's gentle play. And the fabric's color seemed to alter in areas not typically prone to fading or damage from handling. With each new sign of wear and the subtle changes in the doll's appearance, Steven and Ellie's unease grew. They started to doubt the innocence of this toy, a gift that had become an integral part of their son's life. The changes were small, almost imperceptible day to day, but cumulatively, they painted a worrying picture that could no longer be ignored. Despite the doll appearing normal at a glance, a feeling that something was off began to linger with Steven and Ellie. This unsettling feeling grew stronger with each passing day, as the doll's presence in their home seemed to cast a longer shadow, with a tension hanging in the air that was hard to pinpoint but impossible to ignore. As days turned into weeks, the doll began to show clear signs of falling apart. Seams that had once held tightly were now loosening, with threads unraveling and the soft filling peeking through. These signs of deterioration were alarming, not just for the speed at which they occurred, but for the careful, gentle handling Nico had always shown the doll. These physical changes in the doll confirmed Stephen and Ellie's fears that there was something truly wrong. What started as a strange feeling had now become a tangible concern. The doll's rapid decline was out of the ordinary, and the worry for Nico's attachment to it grew. They knew they had to address the issue, yet how to do so without upsetting Nico was a dilemma. After much discussion and observation, Stephen and Ellie made the difficult decision that the doll could no longer be part of Nico's life in its current state. They planned to fix the doll, hoping to restore it to a condition that would allow Nico to keep his cherished companion without the worry that had grown around it. It was a decision made with heavy hearts, knowing the attachment Nico had formed, but seeing no other choice. Stephen, Ellie, and Nico arrived at the local doll repair shop with the damaged doll in tow. The atmosphere was tense. Each step towards the shop door weighed down by a mix of hope and fear. They wanted to believe that the doll could be restored, that Nico's companion could be returned to him whole and safe. This small hope was all that pushed them forward, despite the unease that clung to the back of their minds. The moment the clerk saw the doll, his face drained of color. His immediate fear was palpable, a reaction so intense it took Stephen and Ellie by surprise. They had come seeking repairs, but the clerk's reaction hinted at a deeper, darker issue with the doll. Questions hung in the air, unasked but pressing, as the family and the clerk stared at each other over the counter. "This is not just a doll," the clerk whispered, his voice laced with fear. The words sent a chill down Stephen and Ellie's spines. Their concern for the doll had been growing, but to hear it spoken aloud by a stranger validated their fears in a way they hadn't expected. The doll, it seemed, harbored a secret far beyond their understanding. Nico, sensing the tension and hearing the clerk's fearful declaration, began to struggle with the reality of letting go of the doll, even temporarily. His attachment had been strong from the start, and the thought of separation, even for repair, was distressing. Nico pleaded, his voice quivering with emotion. Stephen and Ellie's hearts broke for their son, caught between the need to protect him and his attachment to the doll. Gathering their resolve, Stephen and Ellie asked the clerk for a careful restoration of the doll, emphasizing its importance to Nico. They hoped that by restoring the doll, they could alleviate some of Nico's distress and remove whatever was causing the unease around it. "Please, just make it safe for him again," Ellie requested, her voice steady but her eyes betraying her worry. The clerk, however, was hesitant. "There's something sinister about this doll," he admitted, refusing to touch it again. His insistence that the doll harbored a dark secret only deepened Stephen and Ellie's concern. What had started as a simple trip for repairs had quickly become a situation fraught with warnings they couldn't ignore. The doll, it seemed, was more than just a child's toy, it was a bearer of hidden dangers. Stephen and Ellie, urged by a clerk's dire warnings, realized that the strange doll in their home posed a potential danger to their son, Nico. Previously focused on merely repairing the toy, they now felt an urgent need to protect Nico. The drive home was filled with silence, their worry growing with every mile. Once they arrived, they decided to call the police, explaining the story of how Nico got the doll, the unsettling changes they'd noticed. They prioritized Nico's safety and hoped for help in resolving the situation. As they waited for the police to respond, Stephen and Ellie's worry for Nico deepened. They watched their son, playing quietly, the absence of the doll noticeable in his subdued mood. The joy the doll had once brought him had been replaced with confusion and sadness. Stephen and Ellie reassured Nico, promising that everything would be okay, even as they braced themselves for what was to come. The safety of their family was their top priority, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. After receiving the call from Stephen and Ellie, the police immediately took the situation seriously and began an investigation. They understood the potential danger a mysterious gift to a child could pose and were quick to act. Officers were dispatched to Stephen and Ellie's home to gather more information, and a team was assigned to track down the mysterious man who had given Nico the doll. The seriousness with which the police treated their concerns brought a small comfort to the worried parents. The search for the mysterious man began in earnest. The police used the description provided by Nico to create a profile. Officers and detectives canvassed the park where Nico had received the doll, asking frequent visitors if they recognized the description of the man. They hoped that someone might have seen something that day, something that could lead them to the stranger. To aid in the search, the local community was informed of the situation and asked to help find the man. Flyers with the man's description were posted around the park and in nearby areas. Social media and local news outlets were also utilized to spread the word, ensuring that as many people as possible were on the lookout for the stranger. The community's involvement was crucial, turning the search into a collective effort. The authorities acted quickly, recognizing the potential danger the situation posed not just to Nico, but to other children in the community. Patrols in the park were increased, and detectives dedicated extra hours to following up on every tip they received. The swift response demonstrated the police's commitment to finding the man and ensuring the safety of the community's children. Using video footage from surveillance cameras in and around the park, the police began to look for the man. They combed through hours of video, looking for anyone matching the description Nico had given. It was a tedious task, but the officers were determined. Every piece of footage was a potential lead, a chance to catch a glimpse of the mysterious figure. The search operation intensified as the police developed a detailed plan to find the man. They divided the area into sectors, assigning teams to each section. The plan included revisiting places Nico and his parents frequented, hoping the man might return to a familiar spot. It was a comprehensive effort, leaving no stone unturned in the quest to find the stranger. The mysterious man was finally found and arrested after a local resident reported seeing someone matching his description. The police acted swiftly, apprehending him without incident. Stephen, Ellie, and the community felt a profound relief, knowing the immediate threat to Nico and other children had been removed. However, lingering questions about the man's motives haunted Stephen and Ellie, who anxiously awaited the investigation results, hoping for clarity and peace of mind. During the interrogation, the police were able to uncover the man's history. He was a loner, often seen around the park, but with no prior incidents that would suggest a threat. His background painted a picture of a man who had faced many hardships, leading to his current way of life. This information was crucial in helping the authorities understand the context of his actions and his interaction with Nico. As the man explained his reasons for giving the doll to Nico, surprising truths came to light. He had found the doll near the park, and thinking it might bring joy to a child, he chose to give it away rather than keep it for himself. His intention was rooted in a simple desire to make a child happy, a gesture of goodwill that was unexpected given the circumstances. It became clear through his words that the man meant no harm with his gift. His actions were driven by a moment of compassion, an impulse to do something nice for someone else. This revelation shifted the narrative from one of suspicion to understanding, highlighting a misunderstood act of kindness in a world quick to judge. He hadn't considered the potential implications of giving a doll to a child he didn't know. His desire to do good came from a genuine place, but it lacked foresight, illustrating how good intentions could lead to unintended consequences. The community's reflections on the events and the man's intentions were mixed. While some appreciated the kindness behind his gesture, others remained wary of the risks associated with accepting gifts from strangers. The incident sparked conversations about safety, trust, and the importance of community vigilance. It was a moment for the community to reevaluate its values and the way it responds to acts of kindness from unknown individuals. The true nature of the doll's deterioration was uncovered when experts examined it further. They found that the doll was not simply wearing down from use, but was suffering from an internal problem that had gone unnoticed. The examination showed that the doll was infested with bug eggs, which had caused its strange behavior and rapid deterioration. The bugs, hidden inside, had been slowly damaging it, explaining the unsettling changes Stephen, Ellie, and Nico had observed. This infestation was the root of the doll's issues, a shocking but relieving revelation. Once the truth was uncovered, the man who had given the doll was cleared of any malicious intentions. The police, understanding the accidental nature of the gift, decided not to press charges, bringing a sigh of relief to everyone. Stephen and Ellie replaced the doll with new ones for Nico, each carefully selected to be safe and charming. Nico's joy returned as he played with his new friends, replacing confusion with excitement. Stephen and Ellie watched his laughter fill their home again, knowing they had made the right decision. The ordeal with the doll had strengthened the family, highlighting the importance of trust and communication. As they reflected on the experience, they felt gratitude for each other, their community, and the lessons learned. Nico's laughter was a constant reminder of resilience, and they looked forward to a brighter future together. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable tale like this one.